There are three mistaken notions about your finisher that I want to dispel in today's video. You have got to get this part down pat. And I want to walk you through the 5 essential design elements of a finishing move. This is stuff no one else is explaining, but you absolutely need to know it, whether you are picking a finishing move for yourself or you plan to design one. So in today's video, I'm giving you a complete breakdown of these 5 elements: universality, adaptability, wrestling context, alignment, and execution. And timestamps for each are down below. Are you ready? By the way, I'm Mike Quackenbush. This is Till We Make It. If you want to break through in a bigger way and enjoy greater success in pro wrestling, subscribe to my channel right now. I usually lead with that, but I'm jumping the gun a bit. There's a lot of information I want to give you so you pick the perfect finishing move. Before we dive into today's material, I do want to quickly shout out the newest patrons to come and join me over on Patreon. Thank you for joining on site. I'm glad to have you. Abdulito, thank you so much for your patronage. And Shane, thanks for supporting the work of Till We Make It. It could be you getting shouted out in a future episode of Till We Make It. Support the work of this channel. A link to my Patreon is down below in the descriptus. The right wrestler paired with the right finisher is a magical combination. And if you're currently in the process of trying to pick one for yourself, you know it can be daunting. It's a bit intimidating. Today's video is designed to make that process simple. A well-chosen finisher is a valuable part of the complete package that a working pro represents. That's why you don't want to get this wrong. For example, awesome in-ring skills with a great telegenic appearance all paired with a lame finishing move, that's a recipe for disappointment. That's why you have to choose the finisher that's right for you. Over time, as a finishing move becomes synonymous with the wrestler who performs it, it goes from being simply an added feature of the match to a valuable feature of the match. It's adding a certain value to the performance. Do you know what it is? When we watch Darby Allin wrestle, we anticipate the coffin drop. When we watch Io Sky wrestle, we anticipate her moonsault press. When we watch Mystico, we anticipate La Mystica. That valuable feature it is adding into the mix is anticipation. And so that your finishing move can begin to infuse your matches with a higher level of anticipation, there's a concept that we have to talk about at the top of this video, which is equity. Think of it like this. The more matches you win with your finisher, the more equity it builds in that move. In a pro wrestling context, the equity that we are talking about is the value that you build into the things that you do or make, and that does include your finishing move. So if you're only winning matches twice a year with your finishing move, is that likely to build up much equity? Will it be identified easily by the audience? Is there going to be enough value built up in that they can anticipate seeing the move? I would argue the answer there is no. You need to consistently win memorable, high-profile matches with the same move again and again to build that equity. And this requires consistent and patient work from you. The more of these memorable, high-profile wins you stack up using your finisher, the more equity you are building into that move. And you'll have enough to bank on after doing this consistent and patient work, so much so that the audience anticipates your finisher. And I want to give you a couple examples that I bet you can summon to mind of when this exact thing has been true, when the audience anticipates a finishing move. Can you think of a match where they were able to garner a reaction just by having one wrestler tease their finishing move? There, they are cashing in on that anticipation from the audience, or garnering a big reaction when one wrestler escapes just before the move is hit. That too is cashing in on some of that equity, some of that anticipation built into the move. And after you do the patient and consistent work of building that value in your own finisher, you'll be able to get reactions just like that. Now I want to dispel those 3 mistaken notions about finishers that I alluded to at the start of today's episode. But before we get going, if you're getting some value out of today's episode, won't you please Leave me a like-a-palooza down below. Thanks very much. The first of these mistaken notions we're going to dispel today has only become more prevalent in wrestling over the last 9 years. You do not need to give your finishing move a proprietary name. You know what I mean by this? It is okay to just call the Boston Crab a Boston Crab. You can just refer to the choke slam as a choke slam. You don't have to find a way to insert your name, customize, or otherwise make the name of your finisher proprietary to you. Not all finishing moves need proprietary names. The second of these mistaken notions about finishers that I would like to dispel forevermore is this: your finisher doesn't need to be complex or high risk. The Helluva Kick is not particularly complicated, and the Superman Punch is about as low risk as it gets. You can still earn a top-tier reaction for your finisher, but it doesn't need to be complicated or risky. This third one might get a little prickly. Your finishing move doesn't have to be brand new, but please listen to your old pal Mike here, because a lot of working pros are getting this wrong right now. If you plan to take a finishing move wholesale from a performer that's on TV right now, you will always come across as a pale imitation. Wrestlers working at the independent level or wrestling on the international circuit right now do not enjoy the same level of exposure as those at the corporate level. Those are the ones you see on TV every single week. And because they are seen by so many more people and backed by multi-million-dollar productions, their finishing moves automatically have more equity built up in them. And I know it can be tempting to take one of those finishers for yourself so that you get to cash in on that equity. But even if your crossroads is twice as spectacular, you will still come across like a Cody Rhodes cover band every time you perform it. If you plan to take a finisher wholesale from someone on TV right now, be prepared to change it or modify it in some way so that it becomes unique to you. And now is the most important information I had to share with you in today's video, those 5 design elements. You don't want to get these wrong, or you may end up with a move that just doesn't work for you. The first of these design elements I want to break down for you is universality. And to do this work, first, I need you to think about your home promotion, the company where you appear the most and the wrestlers who you are booked on against most frequently. And we're going to pass your finishing move through this test. Does your finisher work on the tallest person on the roster, the smallest person on the roster, the heaviest in weight, the lightest in weight? Does it work on the most flexible, the least flexible person on the roster, the most experienced, and the least experienced? And if you don't get at least 7 yeses from this test, it may be time to go back to the drawing board in terms of choosing your finisher. This second design element is a real pain point for some, I know. It's alignment. That is to say, does your finishing move align with your in-ring value? Every wrestler has an in-ring value, like strength, speed, high flying ability, technical prowess, etc. So if your in-ring value happens to be strength, and you've chosen for yourself a finishing move which is a power move, then that finisher is well aligned with your in-ring value. I think you did a great job. Or to give you a different example, if you are the technical wizard on the show, a finishing move that shows off your mat mastery is well aligned. A technician with a submission hold as their finisher has correctly aligned their finishing move with their in-ring value. The third element you've got to design for is adaptability. You want a finishing move which works in a variety of circumstances from a variety of places. If you've got a move that only works under a strict set of conditions or can only be applied from one very complicated way, it's not very adaptable. It won't be easy to fit it into the context of a match unless those rigid conditions are always met. And in wrestling, they probably won't be. That's why you've got to design for adaptability. The fourth element that we're going to design for is context. Think of your home promotion, wherever it is around the globe that you wrestle the majority of your matches, and consider your finishing move in that wrestling context. Here's what that means. Let's say, for example, your finisher is the German suplex, but at your home promotion there are 8 other wrestlers who also do the German suplex, and none of them ever win matches with that move. If that's the case, in that wrestling context, it will be almost impossible for you to build credibility in your German suplex as a finishing move. You've got to design with consideration for the context. The last of these design elements we have to consider is execution, with an eye for consistency and precision. And I want to talk about that for a second. I bet you can imagine a finishing move isn't the kind of thing you deploy in the first 15 seconds of a match. It's actually the opposite. It's the thing you might deploy in the final seconds of a 15-minute match, a 20-minute match, a 37.5-minute match. So think about consistency and precision at the end of a performance, after you've already spent all of that energy. Will you still be able to execute your finishing move consistently and with precision even at the end of the performance? This is something that has to be carefully considered. Just doing it in the practice environment, removed from the full context of a match, will never reveal this potential design flaw to you. You've got to test it and make sure you're able to execute your finishing move consistently and precisely, even when you're feeling completely gassed at the end of a match.